Good evening and welcome to tonight's council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First thing I'll ask for is agenda changes.
Mr. Mayor, we would ask that when it comes time for evaluation of the consent agenda, that the minutes for the December 21st meeting be pulled out of the consent agenda by motion from the council, and we can move that to new business. We need to update a issue on one of the resolution numbers that were in there.
Would you like a motion to do that now or wait until we get to it?
That'd be great if we just someone wants to do that now.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to remove the minutes from the proposed consent agenda.
Second.
And move them to unfinished business, right?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And move them to unfinished
Okay,
business.
we have a motion and a second to move the minutes from the December 21st, 2022 meeting to unfinished business down in our agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. That is done. Next item, we are having an executive session out of the gate tonight, so I would entertain the motion for that now.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Halstead City Council recess into executive session to discuss performance of a City of Halstead employee and maintain privacy rights pursuant to the personnel matters of non-elected personnel, exception KSA 754319B1, and ask that in addition to the governing body, the following persons join the governing body in executive session: the city attorney, the open meeting and governing body to reconvene in the city council chambers at 7:15 p.m.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to enter into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. We are in executive session. We'll move to the meeting room. Turn your mic on, George and Josh. We are back from our executive session. Is there any action to be taken as a result of?
No, this time.
Seeing no movement from the council, we'll move on our agenda. Next item is public forum. I'll open for public forum now. If there's anybody here wishing to address the council that's not on the agenda. Seeing no movement from the gallery, I'll go ahead and close the public forum and ask for the approval of the consent agenda with the minutes retracted as stated earlier.
Mr. Mayor, having read through the consent agenda as submitted, I would make a motion to approve it, less the minutes from last meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with the modifications. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes. And we'll move on to unfinished business. Did we move those minutes to unfinished business, Ethan?
Yeah.
First item, is that what you wanted?
Sure, that'll work.
Okay, so the first item is those minutes that we haven't approved, and I'll let Ethan let you know why we pulled them out.
Thank you. The resolution that we passed, updating the personnel policies, we had assigned the resolution number 2022-14. We had actually used that on one of the amending petition resolutions. So that resolution number was already spoken for, just a clerical error on our side. So we would ask to amend that resolution number to 2022-16, and we'll have the mayor sign that updated resolution. This isn't published or anything like that, so it's basically just a clerical update to that resolution, updating the city personnel policies, and apologize for that clerical error on our part, not catching we had already used that resolution number for the year.
With that, Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve revised resolution number 2022-16 regarding the minutes from the previous meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Well, I'm glad we got that cleaned up.
Did we assign, correct that? By what we just did? Okay, all right. I'll go with it then. I wasn't following very well, so I thought.
The attorney's happy, we're all happy, right? Next item under unfinished business is a 2023 employee cost of living adjustment. We tabled it at the last council meeting for basically so we'd have more of an assembled council. Ethan, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
I just want to point out, per some of the discussion brought up of, it's very possible we need to have a larger discussion on our compensation style and system. But for now, I believe acknowledging that our employees do operate under a system that was designed for both merit and consideration of other adjustments like cost of living. Taking away either of those undermines that system. And then just also note, I have an example kind of why showing mathematically what COLA does and how COLA basically does preserve merit increases that city employees have received that have been here, more than a year, 2 years. That's using real data as far as, when we brought in a public works employee with absolutely no experience in 2020, we could hire that position and advertised and got applicants in at $14 an hour starting wage. Again, that's no experience, no relevant skills that someone completely green into public works. In 2022, just with the market wages, we wouldn't advertise that position at less than 16 an hour. And you can just see there kind of on a merit only. And again, if we went to a merit only, as we talked, we would need to probably look at adjusting the percentages that are available. If we continued that midpoint evaluation process, that employee would only be there at the end of 2 years in 2022. And if we brought someone new in and hired them at that higher rate, they would be actually making less than a new employee. So again, that would either mean that employee would need some sort of adjustment to move them to the new floor. And obviously there are concerns with that because that employee in that 2 years hopefully has developed more skill and more value to the city. So this is one of the main reasons why cost of living is an important factor in the way our merit system works now. So that's just kind of an example there to show you guys mathematically. I'll glad to answer any questions. I tried to put, a little bit of information there as far as the midpoints. Because we do use midpoints regardless of what we do unilaterally, as positions around us, be it police officers, firefighter EMTs, administrative personnel, as they all raise their floor rates or position rates for those new hires, that increases that midpoint formula generally. So you can see one of the other concerns without us doing a sort of adjustment is you see there at that first, that's just merit. On their 2-year evaluation, they're actually further behind the midpoint for their salary than they were at year one. And that's, again, because that midpoint is controlled by factors not specifically controlled by the city of Halstead. Other than that, I will just again point out we did budget for this in the budget, and that budget did lower the mill levy rate. You'll hear in the preliminary year end that we did end in a very good financial position. So I do acknowledge cost of living is something, according to the Society for Human Resources Management, only 11% of employers in the U.S. do a formal cost of living. However, 76% of employers do some sort of annual or normal market adjustments to their wages on an ongoing basis. And so that's really, I guess, how I would encourage everyone to think of cost of living, is that it's actually an adjustment. It's not meant to be, a merit or anything of that. It's meant to preserve purchase power and make sure those merit, we don't see a decrease in real wages. And the last point I'll make, so I do believe that is I will gladly forego my own cost of living increase that I would be entitled to under and across the board if it meant that all the other employees get it. It does obviously affect those in lower positions more as far as the inflationary pressures, and I do believe in it both ethically and as what's right for our employees, and so I have no issue with being exempted out of any motion for cost of living if that makes it more palatable financially to any of the governing body members. And just to put that number, that would basically lower that anticipated overall cost by about 7%. So that was in the memo for this item in your packets.
My biggest thing was I didn't want to lose the ability to hold Ethan accountable as a council. So we've talked through it. It's nothing against Ethan I just, when the bulk of it is COLA, then the merit, I'm afraid that some people wouldn't think that mattered much. So that was my thing. It had nothing to do with the employees under the department heads. I think, I'm fine with that.
I think the real issue is we're in unprecedented times with the cost of living. And we're not used to seeing numbers this big. And in the last 2 years, that'd be a 14% increase. And every one of our employees is worth it. We budgeted for it. But we still have taxpayers that we have to answer to.
Right.
And we're, Ethan and I are involved with the Harvey County Council of Government, so we do talk to governing bodies for other cities within Harvey County, and we're still behind other agencies. And we've got to continue to bump our wages a little bit, or we're not going to be able to draw attractive candidates to our open spots. So that's all I've got to say.
I would agree with that sentiment. If we don't provide cost of living, that's going to put us further behind the 8 ball down the road, make it more difficult for us to bring in quality employees that we have. I think we have to do this. I don't think we have an option.
Well, I just like to say that by no means do any of us begrudgingly do this. So with all this discussion, Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve 7% cost of living increase to base wages for full-time city employees who are not on a probationary status, effective with the pay period beginning December 31st, 2022.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the 7% cost of living increase across the board. All in favor say aye.
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 Pose same sign. That passes. And now we will move on to new business. So the first item under new business is K-Camp Property and Liability Insurance Renewal. And Ethan, you can bring us up to par there.
Thank you. In the packet, you had our, basically our invoice, for K-Camp, costs this year. Increased to $110,000, just shy of $111,000. That's for our property and liability insurance. It's about an 8.2% increase from our costs last year. This is largely being driven to the increases in the values that city property has, the rotation of our older insured mobile equipment, things like handheld radios, et cetera, and then vehicles to their newer replacements, which also then have a higher replacement value. It's not driven by our claim history, but those larger market trends. It is slightly less than what K-Camp had told us to budget for, so we do feel that this is safely within. And I did note, have been very pleased with our switch to K-Camp from EMC as far as the extra benefits we get, like consultation on our policy manuals, the risk avoidance grants, the attorney assist, and contract review services. For instance, they were very helpful in us getting everything we needed to from a liability standpoint in place to hold the Kansas barn sale at minimal risk to us. So we feel that those values as well. And then our ability to actually participate and be an active member in K-Camp. So we can, if we send membership to those meetings, have the option to weigh in on things and policy changes for the organization as a whole, which we didn't have with a private insurer. So we would recommend continuation with K-Camp for another year.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me. Excuse me. Mr. Mayor, if there's no discussion, questions, make a motion to approve the renewal of Kansas County Association multi-line pool and authorizing payment of the invoice amount of $110,889.
Second.
We have the motion and the second to approve our K-Camp insurance renewal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Well, that's good. We're gonna stay insured. Next item is the KMGA gas prepay program. Ethan.
Thank you. I will do my best to kind of, hopefully you all had a chance to review the information in the packet. But basically, it's kind of a misnomer to call it a prepay. We will still continue to pay as we go. We do kind of guarantee, though, if we would participate in this, to purchase a set amount of volume. Where the money is made for the higher ups that started this process is basically the difference between the financing rate for a municipal bond and what they can sell those market commodities for. We did talk probably 3 years ago about doing this. The council at the time had wanted to. The hope is to get about a 33% minimum MMBTU discount. Again, that's not going to be applied to all the gas the city purchases in a month, but it would help drive down costs. It is a 30-year agreement, but they do evaluate basically every 5 years to see what that discount would be. So for instance, last time when the city had authorized and put all the things into place, the market conditions were already changing, and it wasn't favorable to do a prepay agreement as far as for the financiers of it, and they pulled out, so the city basically couldn't get the MMBTU discount we were looking for, so that gave us an off-ramp there. Same thing would still apply on these, that we would have that off-ramp both on the initial side if we can't get at least that 33-cent discount, and then every 5 years that number is reevaluated, and the city potentially would have the option to offload at that point. We also have sent the agreements to Brad. Those are not final documents yet, but I guess what we're looking for tonight as far as staff is whether there's interest from you all in the city participating, or if this is a no, so we can just let KMGA know that. Brad still has until the end of this week, I think, to get any legal comments back to their legal counsel as far as KMGA's on how, or things that we want or take issue with, but we basically would have a back-to-back contract with KMGA, who would have a contract with Minnesota's Municipal Gas Agency. to try and get this discount, and they did confirm that this can be applied to those first of month and index rates, which we have largely, in the winter especially, transferred a lot of our gas volumes to being purchased on those fixed prices as opposed to the daily market. So this hopefully would result in lower costs, and with us paying about twice as much now, just due to the overall global market conditions for natural gas, I think any discount is worth pursuing. Still a lot of pieces that have to fall into place for this to be a for sure thing, but KMGA is just trying to get their participation numbers, because you also have to have a certain guaranteed daily volume of gas every day for these agreements to go forward. And so before Pat and I sit down with our pencils and try and figure out what's best for us to buy every month under this type of agreement, want to make sure that you all are in favor of participating or not.
Did you say that if we were to opt in, we would have to wait 5 years before we could bow out?
Yeah, so if they would, if the city would opt in and then basically say that they can meet whatever that discount rate is of 33 cents. So if it comes in at 34 cents, then you're in that first 5 years for sure. And the city has to at least purchase what it said it would purchase on a daily volume rate. So, I mean, it's one of those of why I can't just tell you it would guarantee be a straight 33 cent across the board, discount, because you would never probably ever want to purchase more than 50% of your anticipated needs for the month with the volatility of temperature and all of that. We have another bit of a special case with Ergon, who's a consistently large load. So obviously they would, when we talked to them last time, they were like, anything you can do to help keep costs low, great. But if Ergon, for instance, would close doors, there at least in the last agreement was language of if there was substantial loss of load, there were some outs there as well. The big issue with any of these prepay are kind of like fixed base, in our firm contracts now, is if we overestimate or over purchase gas for a day, we basically have to try and remarket that, which generally is done at a loss. So
My own opinion, I feel that there are too many moving parts that have to mesh just right for us to come out a winner on this. Would I be wrong on that?
if we kept our volumes responsible enough on what we sought, I think we would be okay. Summer is where it would get the most dicey, and then winter. I mean, winter, you're almost always guaranteed you're going to have enough consumption that you'll never have that issue. But Ergon, how much we rely on any volumes they consume to be under that type of agreement, that would be our big concern. I mean, but I think last time we averaged about only 33% of our anticipated volume in any month to go towards the prepay. So that gave us basically, we could have had a pretty good drop in load, and we should be able to get our 33, that discount first, and then adjust accordingly.
Well, I would say if we could protect ourselves in the contract in the event that we lost a company like Ergon or even Lake, because they're gonna use a lot of gas too.
Yep.
If we can protect ourselves against that, any kind of a discount is gonna be worth pursuing. It does seem a little scary when you talk about a 5-year contract though, on a commodity.
Yeah.
So I would say, in my opinion, I would continue to pursue it and bring the best and worst case scenario forward to the governing body, and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, I agree. If we can find a way to save a little bit of money, I think it's worth at least looking at.
If you can, you'll bring some more information to us, but just as I see it now, if this were something that I were trying to enter in personally, in some sort of a business sense, I wouldn't feel comfortable with it.
I agree. Seems.
So maybe as you compile more information, bring it to us, maybe you're gonna find the magic key that'll just, that's it.
Yeah.
Let's do this. But at this point, this is not a circumstance I personally would want to enter into my own business.
And some of it, like we just did kind of their base rough, they're on page 49 in your packet, but that showed, and I think they just did a flat 50% of what we had, said the city of Halstead would naturally buy at a 33% discount rate. Basically, over the course of the year, save the city, 33,000. So when you talk about our gas purchase line is, generally $1 million plus. This is not, again, something that it's moving the needle a huge amount, but it does have the potential at least to try and keep those prices low. But I agree, there is those, the discount. I mean, in theory, the discount's always guaranteed then for that 5-year period. But again, when gas hits $600 in MMBTU, 33-cent discount is nothing. So, I understand.
Okay.
And we don't have to make a formal, as far as us participating, until March 15th, I believe. So we definitely have some time before this is a formal thing. So just didn't want to waste time on the math.
Anybody else have any questions regarding the KMGA gas prepaid program? We'll wait and let Ethan bring some more information to us. Let's move on to the Base 2.0 grant opportunities.
Thank you. So the state announced Base 2.0. If you all remember, we participated in the first round of base grants, submitted 2 projects. One was for a speculative industrial park building and some industrial park signage. And then the other project was at 328 Main Street, demolition of the building there, and a commercial speculative building, which in our application we put maybe could be a daycare or something like that. I assume we at least were hopefully going to still pursue our industrial park and speculative building there, but I guess I wanted to talk to the council of whether they had any ideas. Kind of, we put some information there as far as the what the grant opportunities were. If you want us to submit those existing 2 applications, I believe we can submit a 3rd application. We are limited to a max of 3 as the city. There is some possibility there if we can get some of our work for our housing and tie that to economic development, that could be considered. These are highly competitive grants, and they're open to a lot more than just residents. So they did note in the webinar, they're trying to look for shovel-ready projects as possible. We don't have to do anything. I do feel we have some ways to strengthen the last 2 applications we submitted because we had a little bit shorter window to turn those around. But basically, these are at minimum 25% matches on anything we would submit. So last time, basically, the city said that we would give $424,950 in local match towards our projects, which I think we're well over 1.5 million between those 2. So just looking for some feedback there on what you guys want us to submit or ideas for other projects you want us to explore to get those in by the end of the month.
Well, I'd definitely like to resubmit our spec building for the industrial park, and as Ethan and I discussed earlier, we could change that request to a 50-50 ask on that grant, which would increase our odds of maybe getting it.
What did we have before?
I think just a flat 25% we did.
We have the costs for that project now.
More or less.
Yeah, I mean.
Or the smaller one?
Yeah.
Even if the particular party that's interested currently decides they're not interested, I still think if we build that, they will come. We'll fill that building with somebody. So I'd like to continue to pursue that.
And I think that 50-50 is a good idea.
The other project, we threw a dart out there, seeing if it'd stick in anything. I still think it's something that'd be very viable for the community. We don't really have that project shovel ready, but we can throw it out there again and.
Sure.
I think my preference would be to focus as much as we can on the industrial park spec building. If we can land that, I think that'd be my preference.
is there anything else that you guys have thought about that might be worth considering for this?
How about recreational, equipment? Would that fall into a category?
No, yeah, that isn't, it's kind of like housing, you can't do anything vertical, but you can do, infrastructure. So, some of the other stuff, that they mentioned were like parking facilities, obviously you can do, if it's spec and industrial, they even said residential space, but they said that is gonna be a little bit harder to meet their thing. I mean, we have shovel-ready industrial lots, so we don't need a lot of work there. But, we can look at, we just did, when we had the derailment, unfortunately, we had engaged in a lot of work there with the industrial, bringing the rail spur up. So we can potentially look at that too, because that cost was incurred. Because we can go back, since this is related to COVID funds from the state, anything that has been spent, potentially look at putting those costs as part of what has already been done as a match. So we can also look at, we are landlocked. We could try and submit something to purchase more land for business industrial park expansion too.
So asking for the money that we've already spent back.
We'd have to tie it to another larger project, but we could, in theory, use what we've already spent as part of our match. So
Right.
if we had, say another $200,000 worth of work we needed to do on the rail spur or something like that, we could use the 100,000 or so we invested last year as a match.
It's not a bad idea.
Yep.
Do we have any work we need to do on the rail spur?
Nothing that immediately comes to mind. I mean, it serves the needs right now, but again, it gets into that question of future planning. But a lot of that depends on where land we have too.
Yeah, and what we fill that space with.
So
I'm in favor of getting them money back, so.
You need any kind of formal action on this tonight, Ethan? Or?
yeah, I think generally there's interest, and it sounds like we'll focus more of our work on getting the industrial park application up to snuff, and we'll probably let the other one fly. So we'll do what we can and report back. We'll have to have some probably resolutions next meeting as far as guaranteeing our project matches and that kind of stuff. So
We can do that. Any other questions over the base grant opportunities, guys?
No.
All right, let's move on to a Pathways grant with Healthy Harvey Coalition.
thank you. This actually kind of came about because of the relationship we established while doing the Safe Routes to Schools grant process. The Healthy Harvey Coalition were members on that SRTS committee for the city of Halstead. They have a Pathways grant that's through Blue Cross Blue Shield. They estimate that they'll have somewhere between 50,000 to 100,000 that would be available. Basically, there's the Pathways to a Healthy Community pledge that the city would have to enter into. That started on page 136 of your packet. And then we also would have to look at doing some policies that, adopting citywide policies, trying to strengthen, focus on multimodal transportation, healthy living, getting people outside, that kind of thing. But we could use these funds. Sounds like it's a pretty good option that we're eligible, and we've done a lot of the activities as part of our Safe Routes to School. So this would allow us to enhance or do some of the work, that maybe wouldn't have been covered with the cost or rise in materials that originally when we put in for that grant. So I would love to work with them and try and get every dollar we can towards these sidewalk infrastructure things, but it will require some lifting on our part in terms of bringing some policies before you all to look at doing. So, and I can also have someone come from Healthy Harvey to talk more about this Pathways grant. It's a little interesting as far as it's through Blue Cross Blue Shield to the Healthy RV Coalition, but it's Blue Cross Blue Shield's.
So you're just looking for a consensus to proceed to pursue this, correct?
Yeah. I think it'd be good, I think it'd be good to have somebody come talk about
I was
it.
gonna say, I'd like to hear from somebody.
Okay.
Yeah, how many dollars are laying out there, you think, on this?
They estimated that the city could get anywhere, probably 50 minimum, but they thought it'd be probably closer to 100,000.
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
Yeah, like,
I will see if they can come to next meeting.
Moving on, the next item is the 2023 League of Kansas Municipalities Statement of Municipal Policy. Ethan must have wanted to tell us all about this for some reason.
Yeah, no, we sent that out, as well, so you all could read it. Basically, we ask for this, every year of just, a motion to support the League of Kansas Municipalities Statement of Municipal Policy, which outlines their legislative priorities. Throughout the legislative session, league staff will call on testimony on bills that may affect cities or things like that. So it helps us be more responsive to those calls for testimony and the tight timelines those usually have to be submitted in. Because typically, no member of staff is going to put anything on city letterhead that the governing body hasn't approved as a policy. So formal support of what LKM has put out as the statement allows us, when league staff specifically says, we need testimony on X, or can you provide us your city data? This just allows us to contact our legislators, or we might reach out to you guys to do contact too on things that may affect us that are being considered by the legislature, so.
well, I did go through all of it, and I actually did find something about eminent domain, so we may talk about that later. But, so I would make a motion, if there's no question or discussion, for the city of Halstead to support the League of Kansas Municipalities 2023 Statements of Municipal Policies, and authorize the governing body members or staff to engage in activities related to the support of those policies as needed.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to support the 2023 League of Kansas Municipalities Statement of Municipal Policy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Well, that moves us down to our report section of the agenda this evening, and governing body comments is first. I'll start with you tonight, Derek. Have anything to bring forward?
Well, weather's changing. Make sure you check on your neighbors when it gets cold.
Josh?
Nope.
George?
I will say I was gone for 2.5 weeks in Southern California, and I love my town of Halstead. I'm never going away. Glad to be back.
Brody?
I got nothing tonight.
Okay, well then we'll move on to Ethan for the city manager report, and when you're done with that, you can move right into the financial report, Ethan.
Thank you. I sent out the formal report earlier to you all this morning as far as departmental activity for the previous month. Big things to note, we did have a pre-construction meeting for the utility work in the new housing development, Cedar Meadows. They're hopefully going to start staking this week, and then we'll get started on that project in short order. As far as the road, we are still waiting for one final approval from the Corps of Engineer. Speaking to Harlan, it sounds like he hoped the final comment deadline from federal agencies passed last week, so hopefully we will be able to take that project out to bid. We also briefly discussed the water line improvements as part of the 9th and Walnut project. That is still on board. We are experiencing some delays in getting in, Pat, help me on the exact inventory.
Gutters and material for 7 meters.
Yeah, due to having to update some services and getting those replaced. We've had some inventory delays there, but they're still hopeful to try and get that done here in this first quarter. So that project's moving along. And then Harlan anticipates and was hoping that we'd be able to basically get all of our capital road work out to bid at the same time, maybe get some cost savings there of getting contractors working not only on Main and Stutzman, but also on that reconstruction at 9th and Walnut. So those are the The big news, other than that, it's mostly been trying to get city books closed, get things ready for the auditors coming in, things of that nature that wasn't thrown out there. So in that formal report. And for financial, pull up my notes here, you do have the budget summary spreadsheet and the city equipment and capital improvement fund summaries. But basically, we're soft closed, so we're awaiting final reconciliation with the city treasurer to close out formally our 2022 fiscal year. There will be a larger discussion of our year-end financial position as part of the annual state of the city. So I'll just give a few highlights right now. With the budget amendment for the gas fund, the city of Halstead did not exceed budget authority in any of our budgeted funds and met our cash basis requirements in all those funds as well for the fiscal year. Revenues across all budgeted funds were about 8% favorable to our expectations, and expenditures were about 9% favorable to expectations. With the exception of 4 of our minor funds, all the budgeted funds are in a better cash position as far as the money they're carrying over into the new fiscal year. With the gas, water, and general funds all having significantly favorable carryover. That information is actually in the bottom of that budget fund summary spreadsheet, kind of in that corner, bottom right-hand corner. The general fund revenues were substantially buoyed by the sales tax collection being favorable to our projections, and then interest income also being significantly better than we projected 18 months ago, based on our interest rates at that time. Property taxes, including delinquency collection, telephone and cable franchise fees, court and EMS revenues, were all unfavorable to budget, but this unfavorability was exceeded by the increases seen in the other revenue streams. And then the consistent revenues or slight increases we saw in things such as licenses and fees, pool and recreation revenue, and then the golf course revenue. While the general fund overall operated within its budget authority, we did have 3 departments that exceeded their local budgets that were driven mainly by staffing costs, training costs, and fuel costs. Our financial policies seek to run actual expenditures at or around 90% of the requested budget authority, and the general fund came in at around 84%, so we met that goal. Our utility funds ended the year in good position with revenue to expense ratios ranging between 72 to 82%. With the gas fund, we were able to make the additional transfer to our gas reserve per the amended budget, and projected revenues from the utility rates all met or exceeded expectations. Expenditures remained favorable to the budget and the utility funds as well, meeting or exceeding that 10% policy previously mentioned as we transition to the new fiscal year. For the capital and reserve funds, all our budgeted transfers for the year were made as projected or anticipated. Final street capital funds were transferred out of the general fund and refuse fund and into the capital improvement fund. All departments finished their scheduled equipment transfers for future capital equipment purchases. City equipment fund has a balance just shy of $850,000. Capital improvement fund now sits at over $1 million, and almost $600,000 of that's ready to go on those capital street projects like 9th and Walnut and the Main Street extension, as well as continued sealing and patching in the city. So it's very firm and positive financial footing as we head into our 2023 fiscal year. I will note we did discover a billing error from Nisley, so we were able to correct that, and we'll see some savings in our refuse fund on that particular issue. So very happy about that as well.
Council, anybody have any questions of Ethan's reports? No. If not, that concludes our agenda this evening, and I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. We stand adjourned. Thank you, council.